You've tuned in to the BAM Pod, brought to you by Black Bear Diner, Chicken Ranch Casino Resort, Mercury Marine, Vexus Boats, StoreQuest Storage Solutions, Fast Boat Technologies, and Tackle Warehouse. Now, kick back and enjoy the next great episode of the BAM Pod. Big things are happening in Boardman, Oregon. At the heart of it all, the Boardman Chamber of Commerce and Boardman Community Development Association, working together to create opportunities, support local businesses, and build a thriving community. From new business growth to family-friendly events, workforce development, and expanding local resources, Boardman is making it happen. Looking to live, work, or invest in a growing community? Boardman is ready for you. Boardman's Community Development Association, strengthening Boardman's economy, one project at a time. All right, welcome in everybody to the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and on the line tonight, I have a man from the Pacific Northwest. And what a great time to do this because we're headed that way, the big swing. Mr. Aaron Echternkamp, welcome into the show, man. Great to have you on.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, you know, we're heading up. The BAM Trail is going north, man. We're going to the Pacific Northwest. We're going to hit some lakes and showcase some areas, you know, that people haven't seen. And there's so much up that way. We've been to Boardman, we've been to the Columbia River, we've seen that. We were at Potholes last year. The crowd wasn't great, but hopefully this year they kind of understand that we're actually coming back. We're actually bringing them good tournaments, run very well, and giving them the exposure that they've been asking for and wanting up there. But this time we're going to Brownlee. We're going to Moses Lake. We're going to Potholes again. We're going to the Columbia River again. Man, and you know what? The Pacific Northwest has so much to offer. And there are other lakes up there, and I'm sure that, you know, we can talk about that. But, you know, there are some great areas to fish up there, and we're going to showcase that. And I wanted to talk to somebody who, you know, you're a hunting guide up there, you're a fishing guide up there. You are the Pacific Northwest, man. You embrace it all when it comes to the outdoors, and you're a heck of an angler. You've proven yourself on, let me see, the Bass Pro Tour you fished the FLW, or was it FLW? Yeah, FLW or MLF, huh?
Yeah, I fished a few of the MLFs.
Yeah. So it's like you have, you know, proven to be a heck of an angler. So having you come on here and let's talk about, you know, what we can expect going that way, how these lakes should be playing out, and, you know, what it's like to actually be the Pacific Northwest and watching a big tournament organization like the BAM Trail come your way.
Yeah, they were super excited. You know, my biggest hope for BAM coming out and making the swing is that we do get the participation. You know, we get a lot of the anglers to come out. I think timing wise, you know, being spring and early summer, I think we're going to see pretty good turnouts. You know, sometimes people steer away from some of the fall fisheries, but the Moses Lake can be a stingy place to fish in the summer. But this year, I think we're definitely going to hit it good. The lake's been a little bit behind, and it's been muddy too. Like the visibility on the lake's been a little bit less than normal. So it'll be real interesting to see how it goes because it kind of has taken the sight fishing out of the lake so far for the year. But I'm excited. You should see some giant weights come out of Moses. Like 24 pounds, 25 pounds.
Wow. You know, that's one of the things that going up to Potholes last year, guys talked about how that lake can put out some good weight, but a lot of people said Moses Lake, if we go there, watch out for what can happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of those things. It's like, and don't get me wrong, Potholes showed out. It was a good fishery.
Yep.
You know, Mike Maktowski won that thing, and he did a great job up there. And it's just amazing what can happen and how those fishing can do. And the guys that I talked to who did fish it, when I interviewed them or when I talked to them after, they said the guys who'd never been there said, wow, I can't wait to get back here. There's some things I really liked seeing, you know, just on Potholes.
Yeah.
But then guys were telling me, it's like, but man, if we go to Moses Lake, you will not believe what you see. And I'm really interested in seeing, you know, I don't hear about the fisheries up there all that much. Being down in California, we have, you know, our very own special fisheries, and I just don't hear about the Pacific Northwest all that much. So it's when you're, you know, we're going to be there at the end of the month. We'll be at Moses Lake at the end of the month. is that going to be a, hey, water's clearing up? This is going to be a bed fishing thing. This is going to be, what is it that we should look for on
Primarily going to
Moses?
be seeing post spawn. I think
Okay.
most everything will be post spawn. There might be a few stragglers that are spawning. Um, like I said, since the beginning of the year, Moses Lake is usually crystal clear, and you can see the bottom in 8, 10 foot of water. I shouldn't say
Well,
that's crystal clear, but it's clear. Uh,
I
the go to Havasu, I can see
was gonna
that.
say Havasu. There, that'll be crystal clear.
Yeah, no, let's say that off. But the you could use a sea bottom in 8, 10 feet, no problem. But this year, I don't know what's causing the lake to be a little bit on the milky side, but you don't see them. So myself personally, I feel like not everything has spawned there. I feel like there's another wave that's going to be going, and it might happen towards the end. It's hard to tell. I have caught some fish that have bellies on them still, so it makes me lead to believe there's another wave that's going to go. So
Okay. Now, before the show, before we turned the show on here, basically, we were talking a little bit about that. You said, it's been pretty mild winters going on in the last couple years. Um, is the lake up? Is it full? Is it one of those things? And maybe that's possibly why the water's off a little bit. If it's been
yeah,
that mild, water's not washing through as much.
yeah. So the lake is up both on potholes and on Moses.
Okay.
Potholes reservoir right now is as high as I've seen it in as many years as I can think back. I know I've seen it one time higher than it is currently in my life. I've
Wow.
grown up out there, but it's get to the point to where it's hard for me to even find where I'm at out there. I'll be like, wait, is this, if I didn't have the GPS telling me it's right there, I wouldn't know where I was. So, yeah, it's crazy how high it is. But Moses is the same, and I'm sure that is why we've had some off weather since shoot. I'm trying to think. Must have been about the middle of April. We haven't had a solid week of consistent sunny hot weather. It's been very spotty since the middle of April.
Okay. And when I look at that lake, and you're talking about it being this high and that, I think it was down a little bit last year. Some of the brush, some of the islands were out that weren't. Are those
Yep.
islands now gone and they're,
So it's about 5 feet higher than last year.
oh wow.
Yeah.
That should definitely put
Yep.
a
It'll
little
make it
hitch
a
in
little.
somebody's get along
Yep.
in a few places. But now that to me means that there's a lot of flooded brush. There's a lot of stuff that's now going to
Yep.
be coming into play.
Definitely.
Is that a better fishery when it comes to potholes?
I like the lake when it runs full like that. I do like it. I think
Nice.
it's good for the fish. It's healthy for their spawn. When they're done spawning, it just gives them a lot of room to get away from the birds and stuff that are out there feeding on stuff that's right after they're done spawning. So I think it'll open it up for a lot of guys that usually if the water's down, the fish that spawn in the back start migrating out as soon as the water starts dropping. But this year they've got a lot of water out there, so it could leave it wide open for the stuff in the very back for the beginning. So for sure, I think those fish that are in the back, I don't think they're going to be coming out anytime soon.
Okay. Now, when last year it was a lot of flipping and punching or not punching, but flipping and pitching back into some of that brush, getting up in there. And then the other one everybody was talking about the frog bite.
Yep.
Now, with the water warming up like that, is that going to turn back on this year? Because I know we were there a little bit later last year.
Yeah. No, there's. I was looking at guys. I've talked to guys that have been catching them on like buzz baits and frogs since
Okay.
March. So
Wow.
this year, one of our biggest tournaments that happens locally right there is the Potholes Bass Club puts on a open tournament, and it's the Potholes Open. There was 151 boats there this year,
Wow.
and there was fish on beds all over the place at that time of year. But I think since the water has come up so much since that time, I feel like they've got pushed off on their spawn. Um, I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see fish that were still on beds even towards the end of June this year, just because I'm catching them. I fished a youth tournament there this weekend, and I was boat captain for the youth, and they were catching fish with bellies that hadn't spawned. So I was. I don't know if they're going to wait for the next full moon or if they're going to get going, but
Now, our first tournament is Moses. I've never seen that body of water. I've heard it's really good. I've heard guys really, really are happy that we're going there. When you compare the two, do they set up the same? I know Potholes was a lot of old islands, brush on those islands, that sort of thing. How does Moses set up and the way that we're going to be looking at, these guys and the way they're going to want to fish it?
I think primarily it reminds me more of something like Lake Havasu.
Okay.
You're gonna have boat docks. You're gonna have tule lines and stuff. You can flip tules, pitch stuff underneath docks, but it's primarily rock. You're gonna see a lot of big smallmouth on
Oh, wow.
weed lines, rocks, and tule edges where bottles. You've got just tons of stuff there. You can still flip, but you're going to be flipping tules instead of willow bushes.
Okay. And catching smallies out of tules, flipping.
You can catch them out of the tules flipping. You can flip right in the middle of a tree and catch 4-pound smallmouth.
Wow. Now that's something I think guys are going to be really intrigued about. I hear in the back of my head Mark Pilgrim. But
yeah. You start catching the 4-pound smallie on a frog on the edge of a tule line, you'll be getting nice. Right up.
That's awesome. That's a great kind of fishing, man. I like that kind of fishing myself, though. I might have to weasel my way out there at some point. But so we've got Moses, we've got Potholes. Now let's talk a little bit about some of these other lakes that are maybe a little more Brownlee's up there as well. I'd never even heard of it. Don't know anything about it. I know it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
when it comes to like I don't even know what's the community that's around it that we're going to.
Well, there's I'm trying to think here. It's where our fellow angler Jason Hickey lives there.
Okay.
Weiser, Idaho.
As I say, is that Weiser, Idaho, right?
Yeah, Weiser, and then I think the last time I was down that area, I stayed in a hotel in Ontario, which is like 30 minutes past the boat ramp where we're going out of. But that's about the closest motel that I found in that area.
We're that close to Canada? No, I'm just kidding.
No way. But no, so I spent a day up there last year with Jason Hickey, having him show me around the lake a little bit because I hadn't been there before. Wow. And there's going to be a lot of fish caught. I think they're going to be, I think a person's going to be shooting for 12 to 15 pounds, but the numbers there could, like the weights they had this spring, I was kind of following their tournaments. They had a lot of 20 plus pound bags.
Wow.
But I think as you get later into the summer, I've heard stories that those fish migrate up and down the river, and we might be looking at a little bit tougher time as it comes post spawn.
So what is Brownlee then? You're saying up the river? Is that it's part of the Snake River? Okay.
Yeah, part of the Snake River. And I know that there's, like we have here in Tri-Cities area, we have an area that we call the Reach, and that's upriver past West Richland. It's a lot of uncharted water, shallower river seams and pockets that guys are fishing. And I know from talking to people up there that those fish migrate from Brownlee up into, further up the Snake and spawn up in that part of the river.
Oh, wow.
Work their way back. There's been some talks like maybe there's not as many fish migrating up to spawn as there used to be, but Brownlee even has areas to catch largemouth. You can parts of the river, little creek channels and stuff that have brush piles. When I was there with Hickey, we caught a largemouth that was probably 5.5, 6 pounds. So
wow, nice.
Catch one of those during that tournament, you'd be pretty happy.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter what color it is when it's that size. You absolutely.
6 pounds gonna help go a long ways up there.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to what is, that time of year, I have to look at my calendar, remember when it is, but it's one of those, that time of year where we're definitely post spawn. We're, working towards the summer. What are these guys going to be looking at to throw? What are they, what is it that guys should be looking at going, hey, you know what? It's going to be a top water bite. It's going to be, post spawn is, rip baits and that sort of thing can still be going. Is that what you're doing? I mean, if you're looking for smallmouth mostly.
What the flock are you waiting for? California's newest luxury entertainment destination, Chicken Ranch Casino Resort, is ready to play. Experience laid-back luxury in our modern hotel, a casino floor with views of the Sierra, and diverse restaurants and bars that'll keep you squawking for more. Experience the all-new Chicken Ranch Casino Resort, located just 60 minutes from Yosemite National Park. Visit playchickenranch.com to book your trip today.
So there's smallmouth and largemouth up there.
Right.
They can pretty much fish their strength in that body of water. Anything that they like, you can find them. A lot of those fish feed on crappie up in that area. And again, this is me talking to people that know the lake much better than I do. But a lot of them feed on. There's like little schools of crappie. Those fish feed on those really good, and then obviously they're going to feed on crawdads and perch and bluegill too. But there's a ton of crappie in that place. You can see schools of them in the wintertime that were like, they look like a giant Christmas tree under there, but they're just big brown dots.
Wow.
They catch crappie up there to 2 pounds. Like they catch some big ones. But
nice.
Like from talking to everybody though, it's pretty much fish your strength. They can go up into the Powder River areas and they can flip, and there's tules and weeds that they can do. And even on the main river, there's brush piles and the creek channels, that go back, and they can find stuff to flip or pitch, or they can drop shot, shake them, and do whichever they want. But it sounds like it's going to be pretty wide open. You're just going to have to figure out what works for you to be able to catch some bigger fish.
Yeah, well, Moses and Potholes are going to be our pro-ams, and I believe, and I don't want to make myself.
They are the pro-ams, and Brownlee.
But Brownlee is the Super 60. So we're going to be putting some of the really good anglers up there on Brownlee. They're going to be, I don't, and like I said, other than a few of the guys that live right there, I don't know how many of these guys have ever been there, know anything about it, have fished it. But it should be interesting to see what some of the top anglers in the entire West Coast can do on a lake like that. When you're saying it is, and that's another one that we should be seeing 20 to 25 pound bags coming in.
Well, I think like right now, this time of year in the early spring, their weights were 20 plus. I think that's going to change. I think we're going to see 15 pounds to 17 pounds a day, probably, just going off sports. Like 15, 17 pounds a day are probably going to be pretty competitive.
A little bit more of a grind to come this time of year, or that time of year we're up there then.
The only thing that I have really no idea what to expect is because I know it is fairly, like, there's a lot of like 1.5 to 2 pound fish up there, and I really no idea what to expect for the keeper count on that one, because you can get onto some pockets of those smaller fish and probably put a pretty good whooping on them if you get them schooled up somewhere. And the keeper count could surprise some people. I feel like they could go out there and get probably 15, 20 plus fish a day. I know I've heard it's usually tougher that time of year, but you get in the right area and the right school of fish, I'm pretty sure guys could add them up pretty quick.
Not quite Columbia River numbers, but definitely quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that Columbia River was pretty impressive. I mean, I was watching, I think it was Colby catching over 100 fish a day on the, it was, that's impressive up there. It just really showed to me what the Pacific Northwest can do and what it offers up that way.
Yeah.
Since we're, kind of talking a little bit about what's up there, is there any other body of water up there that you're just like, you know what, maybe Mark, if you're thinking about one, this would be a cool one to go to? Or are we hitting most of the good ones?
Oh, we're hitting the definite ones that I like as far as most like models. Now we do have some pretty great fisheries in those markets. I mean, the Banks Lake is another one that we have a lot of tournaments on. But any part of the Columbia River is pretty much a great place to fish. But I can't think of any other body of water I'd like him to change. He kept with that pattern, I'd be really happy. But no, then for Moses Lake and Potholes especially, and like it reminded me of like the first time I was on the Delta was this last year, and I loved it. I loved the Delta. I felt like it fished just like the reservoir, and I feel like any given person can come to Potholes and stumble on the right group of fish and compete with somebody that's fished it their whole life. Just because there's 28,000 acres of flooded willow bushes, and it never seems like I might catch them on this island this year, and every time I go to that area, catch 15, 18, 20 pounds. And then the next following year, I go back to that same place and I might not even get a bite. Like
Wow.
the places change there every single year.
Hmm.
Very rarely do you have like one spot you can go to year after year and just catch them. So I feel like it'll be wide open for anybody.
Now, one of the really, I think we talked about this a little bit before the show, was the fact that other than the Super 60, you don't have to travel that much this year. You get kind of I don't want to say a reprieve, but you get that travel reprieve to an extent,
Oh,
man.
I feel
And you
spoiled.
were
Yeah, I drove to Havasu, and I really wanted to fish the pro-am on the Delta this year, but that didn't happen. But I am gonna fish the pro-am one down on Don Pedro, just
Oh,
to
okay.
use that for a pre-fish. But yeah, I feel guilty because, like I said, I don't feel like I've driven much this year, but I'll take it with the fuel prices.
That's kind of the thing, it's the excitement in your voice when you actually hear that. It's like, you know what? Wait, there's going to basically be a Pacific Northwest division that you're going to be able to go up and fish. And even even the Super 60 going to be up on Brownlee. And it's one of those things that, I think people have really been waiting for this to go up that way. The Pacific Northwest has been looking for, hoping for, and wanting this size of an event to go that way. Pro-ams, Super 60, showcasing everything up there. Um, I mean, what does it really truly mean to you that you don't have to go 18, 20 hours to go to go fish right now?
Oh yeah, I love it. I just hope that, like I said, we get enough participation with the other folks out there to keep it coming, and I think we will. I hear a little bit of feedback here and there on talking about different formats for pro-ams and stuff, and you hear guys talk about shared weights and this and that. But I'll tell you, me, every time I draw a co-angler out there, I end up I've been a hunting and fishing guide my entire life. I end up usually helping them out, and they end up whooping my tail from the boat and say, "Oh, hey, you got another one of those spinner baits? Oh yeah, here you go." So, but no, I've met some cool people fishing the pro-ams, the co-anglers, and made some friendships that I've actually, a couple of them I've fished with, before tournaments, or met them in different areas I haven't been to and fished with them, and yeah, had some great relationships built over just fishing with different co-anglers.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I know that guys, I don't know. I know guys want the shared weight sometimes. I am a definite I do not like shared weight.
Yeah, yeah,
I have fished that. It cost me a lot of money back in the day because guys who drew, maybe, I don't want to say better anglers than the ones I drew, but they drew better anglers than the ones I drew.
yeah.
Guys
Oh,
who were on them, and it's like, and that made the difference. And it's like, fishing for yourself, fishing with your own weight, fishing out there. It really, to me, makes all the difference in the world. And when you learn from guys who have your caliber, I should be able to take that home with me and go, yeah, I learned a lot from Aaron when I was out with him, but at the same time, I caught my own fish and did my own thing, and that's what it really turned out. So I loved our format this way.
yeah.
Um,
No,
it,
I agree with that. I think the times a year to really help with us being at the tail end of the spawn. I think the only time that I feel the co-anglers have a really rough go sometimes is when it's right dead middle of the spawn and they're stuck in the back. But to be honest, like, as fishing team tournaments growing up and having my partner that do there, he might be fishing one on a bed. And while he's fishing that one on the bed, if I'm slinging a Cinco out in the middle of the open water, there's a female somewhere within 100 feet of that male. And I've ended up catching the 6-pounder while he's fishing for a 3-pounder. So it happens.
yeah, it's absolutely, that is the epitome of what this whole sport is when it comes to pro-ams. Is I have said this many times. I have nothing but respect for the guys that stand in the back of that boat and try to catch fish behind anglers of your caliber, and all the other the Super 60 style anglers, the guys who come fish the pro-ams, and the pros that show up and fish the pro-ams. I mean, those guys, no slouches. They maybe haven't made the Super 60 yet, but they are no slouches when it comes to absolutely catching a lot of good fish, a lot of quality fish. And to be an AM standing behind them, or a co, however you want to call it, standing behind those guys trying to catch fish and then doing it. I mean, it's blown away. JD Madden down at the Delta this year was just absolutely, he's a guide there, so he kind of gets it a little bit better than some of the other guys. But
Right. Yeah.
he did a great job behind that boat, and there were so many other guys that did great jobs right there, and just it's awesome to see. And I think that when you do it yourself, when you're not using the pro in front of you, his fish, or vice versa,
Yeah.
it makes it so much more. For me, it makes it more enjoyable and much more pride.
Yeah.
That I did this. I
Yeah.
didn't. I may have learned from him. He may have taken me to his spots, but I did what I did behind one of the better anglers on the West Coast, and so I
Yeah.
like that way. Um, Looking forward, with these events going on up there, the last one I really want to talk about, and I think we're going out of I'm not positive yet, but I think we're going out of Tri-Cities this year, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be going on back to the Columbia River. Now, I did not know anything about that until a couple of years ago when we went there. We went out of Boardman, Oregon, went up there, and absolutely was amazed, shocked, and just I love that place.
Oh,
It's a great fishery.
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, because you said you're in the Tri-Cities area. You're going to be going. This is your backyard, but there's also Ty Manarola's too. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
there's some good, some really good anglers up there.
Yeah.
That have shown out. I mean, Ty's been doing good. He's a young kid on the rise coming up, but let's talk about what is the difference between fishing out of the Boardman pool and fishing up at Tri-Cities. What is it, that big of a fishery? Is it that big of a difference in the fishery?
So I feel like the amount of schooling fish that you find in the lower river, I feel like there's a lot more fish that school up on the lower river than on than that Tri-Cities pool. Not that you're not gonna still see these guys using their forward-facing sonar and catching them, but the pure numbers of fish that you can pull up on a weed line in Boardman and just start roping them. Like, I don't feel like that happens quite as much. It does, but not as consistently as it does in Boardman area. I feel like Boardman has more numbers, but the upper river, when it's going good, your weights, if back in the day when we used to be able to lock up, I think it was the first pro-am that I fished down there. It was one upriver. They were locking up, and they definitely, I think they had like 21, 22 pounds of smallmouth each day up there. And I know Ty ended up going up there the second day. He had a rough first day. He went up there the second day and caught little over 20 pounds the second day, and ended up making the cut that first pro-am.
Wow.
But no, there's some big fish upriver. I think you'll see, if the largemouth come into play, you'll see some giant bags of largemouth.
Okay. Is it more predominantly largemouth that way, or is it still mostly smallmouth?
No, it's still primarily smallmouth, but there is some areas up there that the guys have. There's some areas up there the guys can get in there and catch some big bags of largemouth.
Okay. When you're talking about the fishing style, is it, last year it was one really, really shallow.
Yep.
Is that something that kind of goes back on up that way too, or is it more deep, hit
Yep.
the deeper pool?
They can be deep, they can be shallow. It really depends on the weather leading up to it, what the bait's doing. But there's areas up there that you can get on them really good in 1 foot of water to 3 foot of water. I've also done well up there in 50 foot of water.
Wow.
But I have no idea really what to expect. It's going to be the weather leading up to it, how hot it is, and what the water temperature gets to be as to where they're at. If it stays cool, I truly believe that there'll be some fish shallow, like in the 3 to 5 foot zone.
Wow.
I would expect to see Ronnie Mace fishing shallow with his little slinker.
I was just gonna say, Ronnie Ron was fishing way, way shallow. He was fishing. He's talking about almost seeing their backs out of the water some
Yeah.
at some points.
Yep.
Um, that kind of, but I feel like that's very specific. I mean, that guy he knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was
Yep.
looking for. I don't know if you can make that, if you can duplicate that everywhere, but
Yep.
but
No.
he did amazing. Winning that event was crazy, and the way he did it was just, there were guys that were just like, I saw him fishing, was like, what's he fishing for?
Yeah. They're kicking around the dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's good for him.
And then we talk about up that. So let's talk. What is your style? What kind of fisherman are you? Are you a power guy? Are you a finesse guy? You're fishing that river. It is a fun fishery with some power stuff, but what do you want to do?
Take the plunge and jump into new favorites at Black Bear Diner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we've got you covered.
Good old-fashioned family food, Black Bear Diner.
Get outdoors and spend some time in your lab, because in theirs, at Fish Lab, they learn by doing. The water is their lab and they love doing research. Fish Lab knows there's a reason when a lure works, and that angling is part art and part science. It's a puzzle where the pieces constantly change, sometimes in our favor, sometimes not. But by applying decades of experience, bold creativity, a little patience, and a lot of time on the water, we can better the odds of finding the successful formula that catches you more fish. Fish Lab lures are realistic, scientifically accurate, meticulously crafted, and designed for one purpose: to catch more and bigger fish. Straight out of the lab, Fish Lab has you covered with a full line of hard baits, swim baits, glide baits, wake baits, soft weedless swim baits, and bluegill baits. The badass rattle toad, plus a line full of saltwater baits. Check them out at your favorite tackle dealer or online at fishlabtackle.com, and follow on Instagram at fishlabtackle. The science behind the strike, Fish Lab.
Myself and power fisherman, I like to put some sort of reaction bait in my hand and start going up and down the weed line there. That's pretty much anytime I do well up there, I'm on something that I'm throwing, a rattle trap, chatter bait, spinner bait, top water. My weakest point's going to be something where I got to start picking up finesse baits and fishing deeper water to get them to bite. Can do it, but I have to be. I'll lose confidence in it really quick if I'm not being successful.
Yeah, I get that, and it's funny because there's so many people that are. I think it's interesting to see on this tour, especially the stark contrast. There are some guys who it's like, no, I have no confidence in throwing a spinner bait, a crankbait, buzz bait. They want to be down there. Nope, I want my drop shot. I want my jig.
Yep.
I want it on the bottom. I want to know the contact. I want to feel everything, and they are so successful doing it.
Yep.
That's just it's amazing to see how different fishing can be for just different guys and the way they do it, and it's amazing. I think when you talk about the Columbia River, especially, is there's so much that you can do.
Oh yeah.
I feel like you just, like you said before, fish what you want to fish and fish to your strength, and you'll probably do okay up there, if not win.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. It's when you get caught up on the dock talk and, oh, hey, they're catching them here doing this, and next thing you know, you're out there doing something that's not your strength. So
yeah.
Just get in there and go fishing.
Yeah, it's one of those ones when we get up there. So we talked about weight in all the lakes. What do you think is going to be up out of Tri-Cities? I mean, what are we looking weight wise? What would you imagine?
Oh, I would say Tri-Cities.
Maybe just to get a check. Let's start with that. Just to get a check, what do you think?
To get a check, I think you're going to need 16 pounds a day.
A day? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So a three-day event, 16 pounds. All right.
Yep.
We're looking at, you're looking at a little over 50, a little about 40 something, little under 50,
yeah.
But yeah.
I usually if any of the team tournaments that I've fished up there, we've had to have 17 to 20. But fishing an event like that, I feel like 16, 17 pounds a day, and you're going to get a check. If it's fishing tough, then that might be a little bit less, but I very rarely do I ever see the weights up there go less than that.
Okay. Now, I don't know the size of the pools. I know the Boardman fish is pretty large. That's a pretty big pool right there.
Yeah,
Going up to Tri-Cities, is that another big pool? Is there a
yeah,
lock to fish it? Because I know
yeah,
now you're not allowed to lock down or up or down, right? You have to fish that pool.
yeah. You have to fish that pool, but there's so much water that's from the McNary Dam. You got that whole Hat Rock area. There's a lot of guys that fish that area. And then once you get up to like the Wallula, the mouth of the Walla Walla, and the
Wow.
mouth of the Snake River, I'd say that's probably where the majority of the field will fish, is right in that vicinity. And then there's going to be the guys that run upriver into the Reach, and that place can really kick out some good fish, especially when the water levels are up. And shoot, I shouldn't say even up. Sometimes when they're at the lowest point, some guys will go up
Mm.
there and catch good bags. I think it's the Reach comes into play when it's flowing consistent levels. When the water's going up and down, I think it makes it tougher to get those fish to bite.
All right. Well, we hit the Pacific Northwest, and you went down, you fished Havasu. How was that? I mean, how did that fish for you? I mean, you had to go a long ways to go down there and fish that. For the Super 60, you're down there. It's a great fishery. How does it compare? Like when you're home, everybody. I guess that's a better way to ask that. When you're home and it's your waters, there's comfort, and you just feel like you have it.
Oh yeah.
Then you run. What was it? 20? How many hours? 22 hours for you down that way?
It was like 18, 19, 18 hours
Okay.
probably. I went down pre-fished a little bit
Yeah.
just before the cutoff and had a really good pre-fish. It felt like I had a really good game plan. And then the very last day, I was like, I better go check up river and see what's going on up there. I'd fished all main lake stuff. And I went up river and it felt like it was really easy to get bit. Like I went
Mm.
up there and had like 8 or 9 bites in the first hour. And I'm like, oh, wow, shoot, I might want to play into this for the keeper count thing. Like maybe that would be good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started out up there, caught like a 3-pound smallmouth or 3.5-pound smallmouth in the first couple casts. And then a whole bunch of boats ran into that pocket and everything shut down. And I went back up the river. But the water clarity up that river from the amount of traffic from the holiday weekend, spring break
Right.
or whatever,
Yeah.
the water got kind of dirty and I couldn't see. And
Mm.
I spent a little bit too much time. I wished I would have left up there and gone back into the main lake and did them. But once I kind of got locked into fishing up there and kind of had a little pattern figured out, I just stuck with it and kept on fishing. But yeah, hindsight's 2020. Could have done this or that, but I wished I would have stuck with my original game plan and stayed on the main lake because there was some, like my buddy Justin Campbell comes back. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I caught an 8-pounder," and I'm like, "Oh man." So,
It's just listening to the way you talk about fishing. It's obvious this is something in your blood. You fished all over the place. You fished, like I said, some of the Bass Open stuff, some of the or Bass Pro stuff, not the Open. And then you fished, back. You fished back east a little bit. You fished out here a little bit. Have you fished back east much?
oh, I fished back east of Fairmount. I fished all the federation, the TBF and the BASS
Okay.
federations. I made nationals and the All American. Probably, I think I made the All American 5 times, and I
Oh,
fished like Kentucky Lake, Barkley,
nice.
Lake Wiley, well, shoot, Grand Lake. I fished a bunch of the lakes over there and have done well. But generally, when I'm doing well in those lakes, it's during the spawn, and
Okay.
see them every time I get where they're out fishing the ledges and shoals in the summertime stuff. I usually would get my tail kicked up there. But if I could see, if it was springtime and I could kind of power fish and sight fish, I could hold my own.
Okay, so you like that power fishing, like you said. You're sight fishing. Obviously, you've mentioned it a bunch, so it must be another one of your strong suits right there.
Yeah, we just don't ever get a chance to do it that much anymore. Even this year on Moses, I haven't been able to see one all year. Potholes, a different story. I can see them out there
Yeah.
right now.
We look at that. I can't. You can't totally compare them, but how do they compare? I mean, East Coast, West Coast. What do you like? Obviously, this is home, so
I feel like
it's
any of the lakes that have shad in them
okay.
are a little bit easier to pattern the fish
Okay.
for certain times. But I do feel like fishing Havasu and and seeing a bunch of fish and having them not react and not catching them unless I'm casting at something that doesn't know that I'm there. I feel like those fish up there have a little more pressure than our fish do, especially back east. Some of those fish there get. The first time I was on Lake Wiley, in the middle of the week, there's 70 boats on the lake during the day, and like, you know, here you go down our lakes and there's ski boat, party barge, ski boat. It's bass boat, right. Maybe one party barge. Like everybody's bass fishing. So those fish definitely get a lot more pressure, and they can get wise. But yeah, I feel like our fish are easier to catch than some of the stuff back east, just for lack of pressure.
Okay. That's a great way to put it. That's, you know, it's one of those things that I think people don't realize the difference all the way. I mean, depth, obvious.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the ones that I talk to a lot of my buddies that live back there, and you know, they don't understand that, yeah, our lakes fluctuate, you know, 140, 150 feet in a year, and they're like, wait, our lake would just be dry. I said, yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I came back and told my partner that I fish tournaments. I can see why so many of the anglers that I've ever competed against in the TBF, you know, federation level, the guys that come from like Arizona, Lake Havasu areas, those guys are usually pretty tough to compete against. And fishing Lake Havasu, I can see why, because like from the time I was there in February and then coming back in the spring, like those fish are smart. I mean, you can get on them and catch them good, but those fish are smart.
Yeah. You know, it is a testament to how, you know, good a fisherman you are when you can run all over the country like this, have success, and do just a great job of, you know, being successful. Making the Super 60 here is not an easy thing. These guys are very, very good, and you have to be one of them to do that, and you have proven that you are. Aaron, thanks for doing this show, but at this time, it is your time to shine, man. The last 10 minutes of the show, I always give it up to you guys. Thank your sponsors. Tell everybody how they can follow you, how they can watch you, they just listen to you, give them a bunch of knowledge, talk about fishing, talking about the Pacific Northwest. You know, you talk about that you're a duck hunting guide, also a fishing guide up there. Anybody? So tell them how to get a hold of you and how they can be a part of the whole Aaron Echternkamp thing.
Well, my website is easternwashingtonguides.com, and I have most of the tournament information and everything followed on both my social media for the guide service at easternwashingtonguides.com, and then the Aaron Echternkamp posts on Facebook, everything there. But both of those sites have all the tournament information. And this year I actually have the guy that did my social media for my guide service stuff has got some cameras and a 360 camera to mount on my boat to actually start posting some clips of, you know, each tournament. Going to try and capture the pre-fish and the tournament dates, and just put some, you know, short clips in there on the fishing from those dates. So that's pretty much it. But I'm easy to find, just easternwashingtonguides.com, and we're chasing ducks and geese from the 1st of November to the end of January, and then I'll be back chasing them around in the boat.
Do you have any big sponsors on the tour? Do you have anybody that, you know, that supports you, gets you up there, other than just the guiding?
We're going to take a short commercial break and talk to you about one of our great sponsors, StoreQuest Self-Storage. They're here to help you get your garage back. As an outdoor enthusiast, you have gear, lots of expensive gear, equipment, boats, trailers, and vehicles, probably all stored in your garage. You need a storage space that's easy to access, secure, and climate controlled. And that's where StoreQuest comes in. Head over to storequest.com. Plus, members receive an exclusive 10% discount with the offer code BAM10. That's BAM 10. StoreQuest is the official self-storage partner of the BAM Tournament Trail.
It's the moment when everything is on the line, and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. all born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Yeah, G. Loomis and Shimano, Mike Bruce and Brian May there with Don Coffee Outdoors. They're the sales rep for G. Loomis, and they've always made sure that I have everything that I need in my hand, from rods, reels, lines, and anything that they can put. They take good care of me, keep my boat wrapped, and without them, I'd be spending a lot more money out of pocket for the gear I need.
All right. Well, Aaron, thank you, man, for doing this show. I really do appreciate this. Will be out tomorrow, on Wednesday, everybody. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for, listening to this. And if you didn't get any information out of this show, do as always, go back and listen to it again. You missed a bunch of good stuff. Aaron dropped some great information on you out there. Go check out the Pacific Northwest. If you haven't fished up there, let me tell you, from a guy who had never fished up there to a guy who loves fishing up there now. It is absolutely great fishing. Go ahead and watch the BAM Trail. We'll be heading that way soon. At the end of this month, we'll be at Moses Lake, and then we'll be back up there again and again and again and again this year. It is absolutely grab Mark, and he's sending it up there and sending these guys some good information and a great tournament circuit headed your way. If you're out there in the Pacific Northwest listening to this show, get out there and fish. We want to see that. I heard Aaron just said 150 boats were out there fishing a tournament. I want to see at least half of that come out there, fish the BAM Trail. You will absolutely love it. We'll see you up there. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next show.